Okay, I think that's working. Welcome, Christina. Lovely to have you here. So I want to introduce you to all my group. So you are a gentle parenting educator and a friend, and I want to know all about your world. And so tell me a little bit about yourself. So
Hi, Abby. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, my name is Christina, and I'm a positive parenting educator. And I have also a son, he's 4 years old. And yeah, I just really enjoy teaching parents how can they be both kind and firm with their kids while keeping their sanity. That's basically what I do.
this is amazing. It's very important work that you do. And
Yeah, and it's also something that it helps me, because I also learn from all the parents, and the more I talk about this, the more it goes in my brain because we need to reprogram your brain. I'm not perfect. I also scream at my kids sometimes. I also get mad. There are no perfect parents, but
yeah.
the more we retrain our brains, the better we get at it. It's like going to the gym. You don't get like muscles the first time you go to the gym, but the more
Yeah.
you go, you get better. The same is with your brain, like the more you do this, the better you get at it. And
Yeah.
that's why for me, I really love what I do, because by doing this every single day and constantly being learning and teaching, I really become a better mom myself also.
Amazing. I feel like it takes a lifetime, to become a better mom at this stage. Sometimes it's good and then sometimes it just goes bad. And yeah, it's a long process. So how did you learn this stuff? Where did you learn it all?
Yeah, it does take a whole lifetime. Like I think that when I see, for instance, grandparents, my parents, for instance, I think that they are still learning, and like still there are still things that sometimes they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't," like when I share with them things that happened when I was a kid, they say, "Oh, I had no idea, sorry for that." And I think that's like a step. Like parents are always evolving. I don't, it's like being a human being. We are also always growing, right? It's always personal growth. And the same is with parenting. It's not like you do a gentle parenting class and you get enlightened, or even worse, like what people think, that you get a parent and the moment you're pregnant, lightning strikes you and you know everything. Right? That's what people think, and it's so silly, because the same way, if you want to ride a car, you learn how to ride a car. The same happens with parenting, and it's so much harder to parent than to ride a car. So why do we go and learn how to drive, but we don't learn how to parent? It's just so silly.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when the first day when you have your baby coming back from to home, and you're like, what do I do with this? What?
Yeah. There's no instruction manual, right? And then you read all these instruction manuals on the internet, and each one says different things.
Yeah.
And your mom says one thing, and your aunt says another thing, and the pediatrician says one thing, and your family doctor says another thing, and the internet says something, and you're like, wow, what do I do? And it's
Yeah.
really hard. I think it's very, very hard time being a parent. And
Yeah, there's too much information. Before it would just be your grandparents and how they raised you, and or your parents, and now it's just books and audio and everything.
yeah,
So
it's really overwhelming. And I think we try and do things because other people say it's the right thing to do. And then I really believe that there is, whatever you choose to do, you will always be judged, like whatever you choose. If you scream at your kid, there will be people be like, that kid will turn into a screaming kid because you're such an awful parent. And if you're like, oh, I'm going to give you the chocolate, just have the chocolate, everyone, that's why I spoiled. And and if you're like, oh, come here, I know you're having this feeling, let's hug and whatever, they're like, oh, that's why I spoil. So no matter what you do,
yeah.
you will always get judged. So it makes more sense that you choose to be judged for doing what you believe in, what in your heart feels good. So I think that we are all, or hopefully all of us parents, have this innate,
Yeah.
need and desire to connect with our child. And that's, gentle parenting is all about connection.
Oh, wow. So what it's like how to find that connection with your child. Is that what you teach?
Yeah. It's like so basically there are four parenting styles. When you think of like with a
Great.
quadrant,
Yeah.
and you have like on the y-axis on top, you have a person that is very, very kind. And in the bottom, you have a person that is unkind. And then on the x-axis, on the left side, you have, I mean, this is crooked here, but you have a person that is not firm at all. And on the right side, someone that is very, very firm. So when you think
formal, did you say?
Very firm.
Oh, firm.
So if you have, like, for instance, authoritarian parents, which are those parents, like most of us were raised by authoritarian parents, right? They were very, very firm and not very kind. So they were in this position where I am the boss, you do as I say, you are here, I decide things, you have no saying, I don't care what you think, what you feel, you will do as I say because this is my house. And so this is very firm, very strict boundaries. You will do things, and children did obey because they were scared. They were scared of the consequences. They were even a bit scared of their own parents, right? So this is a parenting style that is very firm, but not kind. There is no emotional support here, or almost no emotional support. So children, they turn into people pleasers. Because they are like, oh my God, is my mom going to be mad? Is my dad going to be mad? Oh, I have to behave. Oh, and they are people pleasers. And they are also people that have a very hard time expressing their emotions to other people because they will learn that it's not okay to feel emotions except being happy. So if you're feeling sad or worried, or if you need help, you have a lot of hard time asking for help from other people because you grew up in this household where it's not okay to ask for help, it's not okay to have negative emotions. And so this is the type of children that this parenting style raises. Then you have the opposite, which would be in the top left corner, people that are very, very gentle, but not firm at all. So these are people that are usually, it's called the permissive parents. These are people that are very, very in tune with their children. So they are very, very kind. They really are like, oh, you're feeling, oh, you're crying. Don't cry. Here, have the chocolate, right? So they are not firm at all. They just give the chocolate. Okay, whatever you want, here it is. I cannot stand to see you cry. Usually, permissive parents are parents that have a very hard time seeing their children suffer, and because of them they become permissive parents. Whereas, for instance, authoritarian parents, they also have a problem seeing their children have emotions, but the way that they were raised, because they were also raised by authoritarian parents, and the way that they grew up, it was a more like I have to do things by myself. They feel like they need to stop that immediately. So stop crying right now. I'll give you a reason to cry, because they start getting so emotional about it that they cannot deal with that. No, stop that right now. Whereas a permissive parent is actually feeling the same thing. They are also like, oh my God, he's crying, but they feel it with empathy. So they feel it more with like, oh my God, I cannot, this is hurting me so much, I cannot. And so they are not firm at all because they cannot impose boundaries because it hurts them. And as you can already see here, being a parent is a lot about us controlling our own emotions so that we can then respond appropriately to our child. Because children need both. They need both firmness and kindness. And that's what gentle parenting is about. It's about you saying, oh, I see you really want the chocolate. I can really feel it. It's okay to want the chocolate and to feel sad and disappointed when you cannot have a chocolate. The chocolate looks really yummy. I would also love to have the chocolate. I also feel disappointed sometimes. It's normal. It's a normal feeling. It's okay. And you cannot have the chocolate because we are now going to have lunch and it's not time for chocolate. And let's think of another, brainstorm here some solution. What could we do instead?
So nice. That's such a nice way to answer if your kid wants something. That's so nice.
Yeah, and sometimes this is easier said than done, right? Because if your kid is like screaming, and it's all about us. It always starts with us self-regulating. That's always the first step, because our brains are like, you cannot access the rational part of your brain if you're feeling too many emotions. That's why when we are like, we tend to say things we later regret when we are feeling very emotional. And it's like that, we cannot, respond appropriately to our children if we are reacting, mindlessly to our emotions. It's not possible. So we need to first calm down our emotions so that we can then access the rational part of our brain, because we do know what to do, right? Like we all know it's not to give the chocolate. I don't need to be telling you it's not to give the chocolate. You know that. You just cannot access that rational part of your brain because you're feeling all these emotions. So you need to first calm them down, take a deep breath, go to the toilet for 3 minutes, whatever you need to calm yourself down. And then you need to help your child do the same. You cannot be like, you cannot have the chocolate immediately, because your child, you cannot be rational. You cannot access the rational part of your child when their emotions are very high. If it's already hard for you as a grown-up, imagine for a child that has their brain very underdeveloped. So first you need to access, to bring down their emotions. And you do that by showing empathy, because that's all what we want as human beings. When when you tell, I don't know, a friend, oh, my boss was really stupid to me and did this, or my husband or whatever, you don't want them to fix you or be like, don't be stupid, or be like, well, grow up. What you want is empathy, right? What you want is to be like, oh my God, that's really bad. And that's what children want to. That's what will bring their nervous system down. Is when you empathize. But you cannot, something that people do wrong very often is that they keep saying the same thing. Oh, you're sad. Oh, you're sad. You cannot do that, because imagine you're having this conversation with your friend. Oh, my boss was really a bad person, was really stupid. Sorry. And then your friend says, oh, that's really like, what a bad person. I just keep thinking of that bad word. What a bad person. And you're like, yeah. And then your nervous system immediately starts calming down. Okay, I feel understood, I'm better. But if that person, your friend, keeps saying, yeah, look at that. What? Then you start going like this again. So that we don't want to do that to our children. We empathize one, they go down. If needed, you can stay hugging so that it really releases those endorphins, and it's also good for you, because so it also releases endorphins for you. So you both calm down, you both connect. And when you feel that both you and your child are calmer, that's when you can start the correction part, being like, we cannot have chocolate right now. Even though it's really yummy, we can't, because we have to eat, and otherwise there will be bad things in your tummy now, and there won't be space for the food. But you can never rationalize with your child unless you first bring that emotion down.
Yeah, amazing. I feel like a better parent just listening to you, Christine. Think you need a podcast, just a like 20 minutes pep talk every day. This is great.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. No? It's not easy.
Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes I don't want to hug my kids when they're screaming at me. I just want to like disappear and run away.
Yeah, and it's also okay, like we are also human beings. We cannot be too hard on ourselves. We have to feel self-compassion, because we are only humans, and as humans we are imperfect, and we also feel emotions, we also have needs. And that's why I always say it's really important that especially as a mom, but all parents, but especially as a mom, that you always take time for self-care. Like this is like non-negotiable. We often think like, oh, I don't have time for that, because I have also many things to do. But it's actually a priority, because you cannot be the parent you want to be, the wife you want to be, the person you want to be, unless you are at a mind space that allows you to be all that.
Yeah. Did you grow up with gentle parents?
No. I mean, my mom was a very patient person. I think if I had to say, I mean, I don't really, that's actually something, very often we have a hard time talking about what our parents did. Like, because we feel like we are being disrespectful, because our parents gave us so much. Our parents gave us so many things that we love and that we are actually passing along to our children. And we feel like it's a disrespect to say anything bad about the way they raised us. But our parents are also people and therefore imperfect. And it's actually important that we are able to say, even though there were so many things they gave me that were great, there were also some things that they did that I want to do different. Because we can only change if we have the courage to admit that there are things that need changing, right?
Yeah.
And like my parents, they had a hard, my father had a very hard time dealing with emotions, for instance. And I know that the reason why I'm struggling and I'm growing to the self-growth myself with asking for help and trusting other people and, letting my emotions out is a bit because of that, because I was raised that you're not supposed to ask for help or all that. And, I think that we can all relate to that. Like that, my mom, for instance, she was a very patient person, and that was
Ah,
very that and that makes me very often feel like I'm a bad mom, because I scream at my kid. My mom never screamed at me. So I'm
oh,
like, oh, my husband also doesn't scream at my kid. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like the worst parent alive. Look at that. I cannot control myself. And I teach gentle parenting, right?
wow.
And that's why I always tell people, like, you cannot be too harsh on yourself because we are all imperfect.
Yeah,
Of course, I don't want to scream at my child,
yeah.
but it's also very important that we model imperfection to our children.
Uh-huh.
Because when we pretend that we are perfect, and I think many parents do this, like I was raised that way, the parents know everything, they are know-it-alls.
Yeah,
When we
yeah,
do that, our children really believe that, because children, especially until the age of 6, they believe in everything. They don't have the concept of, like alternative reality, imagination, and all that. So if you tell them that there is a dog that speaks, they really believe that there is somewhere a dog that speaks. And if you teach them that parents know everything and they don't make mistakes, they believe that. And as they grow, they will continue believing that until they are in their teenage years. And they start being like, well, my mom is really blah. But
yeah,
until then, they were thinking you were perfect.
yeah.
And what this gives them is this impossible goal of
Uh-huh.
always have to be perfect themselves.
Mm. Wow,
And
yeah. And I feel like this perfectionism is actually a thing in Poland. Everyone has to be perfect to speak English. So yeah, it's like a national like emotion that you have. Like everyone has to be this crazy perfectionist. And I've had, teachers not too scared to speak English to me because it's not perfect. So I'll speak, Polish, and it's yeah, it's crazy. This perfectionism
and
is
it's really bad, because when we are teaching our children perfectionism, what we are doing is telling them exactly what you were saying. They don't want to speak English to me because they are afraid to do it
yeah,
wrong. And we want to teach exactly the opposite. That it's a growth mindset. We grow
ah,
by trying. We try a word, didn't work. Let's try another time. And we can achieve this by first showing our children we are not perfect, and
mm,
second, showing our children also focusing on the trial. So if
yeah,
your child is trying to, let's say, speak English and they don't manage to do it like properly at the first time, you're like, oh my God, it was such a good try. Would you like to try again? So you don't focus on like, you said that great, because
yeah.
it's not about the result. You focus on the process. Oh, you're really doing great. I can see that it's really hard for you to say that little part in your tongue, and you're keeping on trying. That's so amazing.
Ah, yeah, that's such a good sentence for mums to know, to remember when they try, just to yeah, celebrate the trying of it. That's so nice. Okay, so let's talk about a bit. So you're from Portugal,
Yeah. So that's
and
why
you
I also don't speak perfect English.
it's pretty good.
Yeah, but I know I always speak with that accent because I'm Portuguese, right? And very often people are like, especially in Portugal, people don't like having an accent. So they sometimes tell me, oh, you should, lose the accent. But, I think it makes me myself, because I think that we all, and especially when it comes to the English language, right? We all have it's our
Yeah,
personality, right? It's like a
yeah,
different way. I love Italian people speaking
yeah.
English, for instance. They are so cool, isn't it?
Yeah. Ah, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's lots of this accent reduction, there's work, and I don't like it because I think
Yeah.
it's like a thing to your history, your culture. I just think that you need an accent. I think it's lovely. Yeah. I can only hear it in when you say Christina, because you say Christina. That's the only thing I can hear. But no, I love so tell me, you're living in Germany and your husband's German.
Yeah.
You've got three languages, you were just saying. So can you just explain a little bit about that? Because that's very interesting.
So I'm Portuguese, and I met my husband when he was on holidays in Portugal,
Oh, wow.
and I ended up moving to Germany. He
Wow.
actually wanted to move to Portugal because, I mean, who doesn't want to live in Portugal? Great food, sunny weather, beaches. And here in Germany, it also has its good things, but yeah, it doesn't have those things. But yeah, it's very hard sometimes to find jobs in certain areas in Portugal. And actually, I used to work in the financial markets. I used to be a fund manager like many, many moons ago.
Wow.
And yeah, I hated my job deeply. I didn't know at the time that I hated my job, but I did. I was having a, a burnout, and I just didn't notice. And when my husband, who actually loves his job, he was like, I'm going to quit my job to come here. I was like, no, I want to quit my job. It's just, I got that idea, like, I'm just going to quit. And I quit my job, and everyone thought I was crazy. Completely crazy. Like, why? You have a great job. I mean, I didn't think it was a great job, but
Yeah.
society thought it
Right.
was a great
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And, when I get there, I'm sure I get the same thing. And then when I got here, I didn't get the same thing because I didn't speak German, and I didn't count on that. Like, you always think that language is not that important, but it is important. It is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then with time, I was just trying to find my way into life. I started working actually in the tourism area. And I actually started loving it, the fact that I didn't have stress.
No,
Because
wow.
when I worked in the financial markets, I went through actually um, through financial crisis, which was really hard when you're managing investments at the same time. So it was very, very stressful.
Wow.
And then, yeah, actually, in retrospective, I never really liked it. I just went in that path because it was what was expected of me. That's
Yeah.
why I really think we should teach our children to learn about what
Yeah.
they enjoy.
Yeah. Follow their passion. This is also one of my things. I just want to see what they like, because I don't want them to end it up as in a job that they don't like. And
Yeah. And
yeah.
sometimes you don't even notice it. You don't like it, right? It's so
Mm.
crazy.
So
Yeah.
how does it work in your house when you've got German, Portuguese, English? What happens?
So it was like when me and my husband, we always talked English to each other because I didn't speak German, he didn't speak Portuguese. And then eventually I learned German, but my German is not as good as my English because I've been speaking English since I was in kindergarten. And German, I learned it. I think when you're a little kid, your brain really learns the language. And when you're an adult, you just kind of memorize.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of fear and worry if you sound wrong or if you sound
Yeah.
stupid. Yeah.
There's always that judgment. You always feel like you're being judged, even though you're not, probably, but you always
Yeah.
feel like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, even though I spoke German, I didn't feel like I spoke as good as English. And so we continued speaking English. And my husband, he learned Portuguese, to speak with my family and all that. He did the course and all that. But again, he's a grown up. So, and you need a language also to be able to
Yeah.
really, and he only goes to Portugal once a year, so it's not like a thing that he really needs. Although now with my son, he does need it. He does need it more. But yeah, then we started continue speaking English. When my son was born, I wanted him to speak Portuguese, of course, because what language am I going to speak with him? I mean, even I mean, it's my mother language.
Yeah, you have that's so yeah. I've seen some parents not speak that, they only speak English when they're from Poland and living in the UK, only speaking English, and their kids don't speak Polish. And it's so bad for those. They can't speak to their grandparents. So yeah, you did a good job
Yeah, it
speaking.
had to be because like it would feel weird for me to speak with my own child in English because it's not and it's a cultural thing also, you like the way of talking, the words you use, it's not just a language, it's a culture, I think, that you pass along. So I'm speaking Portuguese with my son, and my husband speaks Bavarian, which is a dialect of German, which is because we live in Bavaria, and he's Bavarian also. And between us, we all speak English. Although usually what happens is because like my husband starts understanding better things. And very often we actually are speaking the three languages at the same time. So it's like I say something to my son in Portuguese, and then my son speaks to my husband, and my husband will answer in German. My son is, because he's only 4, he doesn't really understand. I think slowly he does, but not really, that it's like different languages.
Ah,
Slowly starts understanding, but
yeah.
he, like, for instance, he speaks to my parents in German. He speaks English in the kindergarten.
Oh, it's an English kindergarten.
No, no, it's a
Oh,
German in kindergarten. That's the problem, is that he just doesn't really, he just speaks whatever he feels like speaking. And he doesn't really understand that not everyone understands the 3
yeah,
languages.
yeah. And
So
does he
for him,
mix them? Does he mix like like one Polish, one Portuguese, one German, one English, or
only when he doesn't know the word in that language, and then he usually switches to the
yeah,
other language.
yeah.
So it that happens very often, that he doesn't know the
Ah,
word in
ah,
some language.
yeah.
And then when we say, but his favorite language is definitely English, because of the cartoons.
Ah,
Because because like we let him watch 1 hour a day, like throughout the day, a little bits, but maximum 1 hour, but we let him watch cartoons. And because, yeah, we need to keep our minds
yeah, yeah,
sane.
yeah, yeah.
And initially it was like I wanted him to only watch Portuguese cartoons.
Ah,
But the problem is that Portugal is a small country, and there is Brazil, which is a much, much bigger country.
ah,
When you search on YouTube about Portuguese cartoons, you get a lot of things in Brazilian. And I didn't want him to have that accent, because the words are different, and the way you speak is different, and even the grammar is different. So I didn't want him to learn Brazilian Portuguese, because I think it's already challenging to teach a minority language in a country, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I just started letting him watch in English, because, I also watch movies in English. And actually, like, when you are honest, the best things are American, aren't they? Like, it's just,
Yeah,
they have a bigger
yeah,
butt.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. He will need English in his life.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I just thought he will definitely learn English anyway, because I mean, we speak English at home and all that. So I didn't think he actually needed to also watch. I would prefer he would watch them in Portuguese, but I didn't know at the time. And I was also very overwhelmed, because I'm a mom. Yeah, I don't have time for everything. And then actually now he was speaking so good English. Like, he's really, like, he has so many vocabulary, because initially we thought, no, he speaks English because he hears us speak English and he wants to participate or something. But no, there were so many vocabulary that he had that we actually didn't have, that he taught us.
It's
Like,
amazing, isn't it?
yeah, vehicle
Wow.
names. Like, he knows all the vehicle. He loves vehicles, and he knows all the vehicles, all the construction vehicles, forklifter. I mean, when I hear the words, I know what he means, but I didn't know it was called forklifter, like things like that. And then I was like, no, you know what?
Great.
This is really working, these
Yeah.
cartoons. So I
Well, it
decided
shows
to give,
cartoons, but I think it's the English at home that's doing it. It's not just the cartoons, it's that you're
yeah.
speaking English at home. Yeah, this is amazing.
But
That's
now I changed it, and I started searching on YouTube. I took the work, spent the whole afternoon searching for every single video I could find on vehicles that was in spoken Portuguese from Portugal. And I created, because on YouTube Kids, there is, this might be a tip for other people, like, there's on YouTube Kids, you can create a profile
uh-huh.
where it only allows the videos that you put inside. So I created a whole profile just with Portuguese from Portugal, and he started speaking much more Portuguese now. Now he's speaking.
Amazing.
Yeah, cartoons are amazing.
Wow, that's so clever. That's such a good idea. Oh, that's amazing. Okay. And okay, so tell me some common misunderstandings that you get from people about gentle parenting.
I would say the biggest misunderstanding is that people think that gentle parenting is permissive
Yeah.
parenting. So
Yeah.
people think that gentle parent, like I see very often, like on TikTok and things like that, people say, oh, another gentle parent. Oh, like, oh, this is what gentle parenting creates, because people associate because, like, I can understand it. Like, we all want to see punishment. It's just the way society is, right? Because someone steals something, they go to jail. If a kid does something wrong, he has to be punished. He either has, like, it's very, very sad, but I think that society actually prefers you to spank your child than that you hug your child. I really believe that. That's the feeling I get from what people tell me,
No,
because
maybe
it's
that's in Germany.
no, yeah, I don't know, but or in Portugal at least. But it's really like that people want to see punishment. So if a child misbehaves, and by the way, there is no misbehaving, there's only age appropriate behavior that needs guidance. And it's our job as parents to guide, because every time that there is a challenging behavior, it's just an opportunity. It's basically your child being like, I am feeling, I don't know, upset right now.
Yeah.
I threw my toy.
Yeah.
Because I am mindlessly reacting to my emotions, just like you, mom, sometimes also mindlessly react to your emotions. But my brain is not developed yet. And I don't even know the word disappointed. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know a word for this feeling. So for me, it's even much worse than it is for you as a grown-up. And what I do is just mindlessly reacting. I throw a toy. I'm disappointed. I throw a toy. I need someone to come to me and say, what you are feeling is called disappointment. It's okay to feel like that. Everyone feels like that. And that's not an appropriate way to deal with it. This is an appropriate way to deal with it instead. But they need someone to teach them that, because they are not, that's our goal, our role as parents, right?
Yeah. So you're saying that people that come to gentle parenting, they're more likely to be like, okay, you can take the chocolate. You could do, yes, you can do it. Yep, you could put the TV on for hours. They're more likely to be like that than
No,
to.
actually, the other way around. Most people that want my help and that ask for my help are actually the other way around. It's people that scream at their kids, and they don't want to do that. They want to raise their child through connection, through support, through guidance, and they want to learn how to control themselves and how to get my kid to do what I want, but not have to scream. Because even yesterday or the before yesterday, I had a mom who told me, this gentle parenting thing, my kid, it doesn't matter. I don't want to scream. I even tell her, I don't want to scream. I don't want to scream at you. Well, but you only listen if I scream at you. If I don't scream at her, she doesn't listen.
Yeah.
These are the type of parents that come to me and they're like, I don't want to scream. Like, I really don't want to scream. I don't want to be a screaming mom. Like me, like I also don't want to be a screaming mom, right?
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes it's that type of parents. Sometimes it's also permissive parents. Sometimes it's also parents that have different approach to parenting than their partner has.
Oh yeah. What happens with that? What happens if one is more dominant and scary and one is more permissive?
Yeah, it's like this. Like everything in life, you cannot change other people. And sometimes it's not even, I think parenting is already very hard. And if you're not on the same page, that gets even like much harder.
So how do you do that?
The only way that you can show it's by showing, right? That's the only way you can teach someone. The same way with your child. Like, it's, if you tell your child, don't throw the toys, but when you are mad, you throw their toys, that's not real. It won't work, right? And it's the same with adults. The only very often it's not worth it to tell someone you're doing it wrong. You should do it like this. Look at how I'm doing, because the person will even get more like, what do you know? Like, everyone thinks they're right? Our brains try and defend always our points of view. It's a survival mechanism. So the only way that you can, bring them to the bright side is by showing them. So you have to practice it yourself. And when they start seeing, okay, so the child was misbehaving, you hug the child instead of punishing them, and now they are setting the table. Who knew this could work, huh?
Oh my gosh, Christina, you're saying so much sense here, Gosh, you know all how it works. It's amazing. You've got such a good insight. Okay, so let me ask you, what are some gentle ways, because I need some advice for my parents. What are some gentle ways to correct mistakes made when learning English? Or if your kid doesn't want to learn, do you force them to read and write, or how does it work in the gentle parenting world?
Well, I think we always have to think about what would we like, right? So if it was me and someone is saying, you have to learn this, right? And I want to play with my Legos, then, if someone is forcing me to learn this, I might do it because I might be scared of the person who's forcing me, or because, I'm being coerced to do it, but I will not enjoy it. As soon as I can, I will stop doing it. And I will maybe even forget because I will not really pay that much attention to it.
Yeah.
But if you make it so that instead of me having to do this, I want to do this. So maybe like if I want to play Legos, then try and make it so that the playing with Legos is about me learning whatever English in this case, right? Maybe we can talk English while we play with the Legos, for instance. And then another thing is like when we are correcting, we have to remember that correction is not about punishing, and it's not about it's about encouragement. Correction is encouragement. So when I say like, I already told you it's not like that, right? I will be scared next time to say it again because maybe I'll say it wrong and mommy will be upset because when I do a mistake, mommy's upset at me. But if instead I'm like, oh, that was a great try. That was a great try. Now try like this instead. Look, Lala, and then you make it like fun.
Oh, this is so good. This is so good. Okay. And how do we manage our frustrations? If we want our kid to do reading every single day, I'm talking in my own personal experience, my son, I need to get him to read every day. How do we manage our emotions if you're, feeling frustrated or disappointed or?
So one thing is like, it's very unfair, both for you and the other person, if you are upset at someone because they are not fulfilling the expectations you have for them, when maybe they don't have those expectations for themselves, right? On the other hand, we are parents, and of course, we want to guide our children in a certain way. But instead of, when we have this mentality of like, my child has to do this, that gives a lot of pressure to your child and makes your child feel like, I have to do this and I have to do it right. And it becomes I have to. And what we want is to get your child to be like, I want to. So in what ways, like going to what, so depends on the child's age, of course. So if it's an old enough child that is already, for instance, how old is your child?
7.
7 is still too young. If it was a child like 12, for instance, then you could start having these things that are like called family meetings, where you can brainstorm together, where you would say something like, for me, it's important that you learn English and that you read every day because of this and this and this and that.
Yeah.
Like, can you tell me your side of the story? Why don't you want to do it? And then you brainstorm together. With a 7-year-old, it's a bit like more complicated because they are not really able to have this conversation for a long time or even interested in having such conversation. It depends on the maturity of the child. Of course, you can also try, but the main goal is to try and get your child to want to do what you want them to do. And they will want to do it if they see the value in doing it. And what they consider value is might be very different from what you consider a value of doing it. So for instance, for you, the value of doing it might be, I want my child to speak proper English. I want them to learn vocabulary. I want them to, focus more on reading and less on video games or whatever. For your child, the value might be, this is a lot of fun. This is the time that I managed to do something I really like, for instance, special time with mommy, or like some, thing that they really love that they are not really allowed to do very often, like, I don't know, some superhero that you don't really like so much, for instance, and that they love, and you bring some books that are about that superhero, for instance. So things, but even alone, the special time with mommy, that alone for a 7-year-old is a very important thing. So if you make it so that every day you have special time with mommy where you can choose any book. So for instance, one thing that might be a lot of fun is to bring them to a library, for instance, or one of those stores that have, I know, comic books or whatever books they are interested in, and be like, you can choose whatever you want. And this is your special time with me. So then it starts being something that I really want to do instead of something I have to do. And that will change it completely.
It's just labeling it differently, isn't it? It's not just, right, let's sit down and read, let's do our reading time. Let's just sit down and spend time with mummy. That's so nice.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so let's hear about your amazing challenge workshop that's coming up next week. And I want to hear all about it,
Yeah,
please.
so next week I'm going to host in the Parents of Preschoolers. So if there's anyone here that has a child between the ages of 3 and 6, I welcome you to join the Parents of Preschoolers group. Abby will also put the link, right, Abby? And
Definitely.
and there's going to be next week a workshop. It's going to be for free. We are going to have a parenting class where you will learn how to be both kind and firm, like how to apply all these in real life situations, like when your child is throwing a tantrum in the supermarket, or when they are like, how does this all work in different situations? And then there's also going to be a group coaching session where people will have the opportunity to get help with their specific problems that they are facing with their own children. And it's all for free. So yeah, come
Oh
join.
my God, this is for free. The group coaching is for free.
Yeah,
Okay,
everything.
so people just join your group, your Facebook group. I'll link down below. And then they go in there and then they'll be reminded. And it's next Monday, Tuesday, is it?
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Tuesday,
But we are
Wednesday.
already going to have fun things already from Monday on. So the sooner you join, the better.
Wow. And what time on Tuesday, Wednesday?
Yeah, so it's in your audience is all in Poland, right? So it's at 9 o'clock Polish time.
Amazing. Okay, wonderful. So all the links will be down below. And is there anything else you'd like to say? You've shed so much gold here. It's been so great. Thank you so much, Christina. Is there anything else you want to say
I
about?
just want to say, like, self-compassion. Every day, go to bed and think, like, what are 2 things I did right today? Because we need to retrain our brains, because we are always thinking we are awful parents. Oh my God, I'm an awful. You might have done the whole day, you did awesome things, and then you get at the end of the day, you scream at your kid or whatever, and you're like, worst parent alive. And then you go to bed like that, and it's really bad. And instead, you need to retrain your brain and be like, 2 things I did good, just 2 things. And if you're feeling really like I only do crap, you think, I matched my socks today.
Christina, this is so nice. This is so great. Oh, I think your son is getting so lucky to have a parent like you.
Yeah, I think sometimes I also do, because I also think sometimes I'm a bad mom. Everyone does, right? I think it's a part of being, and that's one thing that I always try and show people, because they see on social media and it looks like these people are like perfect parents. And it's not about being perfect. It's just about like little steps to connect. Every little step you connect, those people that when they are on their deathbed, they say I'm sorry, and that just opens a huge wound and everyone heals. It was just one thing they did when they were 88 years old after doing 88 years of crappy parenting, and it has such a big difference. And every tiny little thing we do has a difference.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna go say sorry to my kids for shouting. Okay, so let's end it there. This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thanks, everyone.
Okay. Stop the record.